goal, strategy, yeah, they both together will be called policy. Huh. And when it is being done or conducted by or regulated by or brought by government or government machineries, then it is public policy. So a very small statement of government that actually guides the citizen to do something or not to do something may also called policy or public policy. So it's not always that if in matlab, like if you name it policy, then only it is public policy. This doesn't happen in that way. Sometimes a very small rule or direction which is given by government may be called as public policy because it basically has a goal or a strategy with it, that what is there to be achieved and how it is going to be achieved. So altogether it will called public policy. So we have national level policies, state level policies, even we have a very local level policy. Sometimes when a gram panchayat makes something, some policies for their own village, it will also be called public policy. Okay. So in recent times, we have seen a lot of emphasis on effectiveness of public policy because people have been realizing that even in India, since 1947, we have spent a lot of money on different welfare projects or development projects, but still we are not getting enough result or good result. So somehow our the process of policy making and execution is not very efficient or effective. So the reason that we all are realizing these days that we are not using our subject matter expert in this. So subject matter as in those person who are good at public policy or public policy making. So earlier there was no program or a course which was there to make a professional, someone a professional to work for public policy or policy execution projects. These days, universities and colleges are coming with a master course, and maybe later university may come up with undergraduate level courses also to train people to work for policy related is work or maybe any part of the policy execution and formation process. So, Filhal, we will be talking about the foundation, which is whenever we say public policy, and I told you that public denotes the government. So, first of all, you need to understand what a government is, and we will be focusing or we will be telling mainly about Indian government structure. That we all know that we have federal government and there are a lot of decentralization there, and decentralization in all terms, like not only in getting the elected members to talk about the local issues, but also the departments and the uh, different ministries which works for different issues independently. And we also have some commissioned body which sometimes even act against the government also, or maybe independent from the government also. So you need to understand the entire government structure, and a few things that I have noted here that we have a decentralized government system, and we have already discussed in some class. So I'll not be going in detail here, but everybody should know that we have a central government, we do have many state governments, and we also have gram panchayat, and in a town we have municipalities, and in a bigger town we'll have metropolitan cities or metropolitan government system. So all type of government structure is there, depends upon what kind of area it is serving and what kind of population it is serving. And we have multiple ministries, we have multiple commission bodies, we have multiple departments to work for different issues and aspects of governance. So whenever we say that we have a federal government and we do have state government in like we do have around 26 state governments, so there must be some things which is solely uh, governed by state governments. So in constitution, we have this center list, which we called union list. Then we have a state list, and we also have concurrent list. So there's a lot of problem in this list also, but we will not be talking about those problems today. Like you can just say that higher education is under concurrent list, and whatever it is in concurrent list, you will find that there are a lot of uh, underdevelopment in those areas. You can just see here education, higher education here, electricity, criminal law, forest, population control, yeah, labor disputes, and a lot of other things. You will find that we have not been able to achieve a good progress in those areas. So somehow there is a big debate on whether there should be a concurrent list or not. We'll be talking about this, or we'll be discussing about this later. So after the list, we will be talking about the three branches of our government that actually makes rules and implement those rules and check that anybody is not uh, going against those rules. So we have legislative, executive, and judicial bodies. And then again, we have state-wise executive bodies and state-wise judicial structure also. So we'll be talking about these in our GK classes. I'll not be going to cover it here. Now, the first thing that we'll be discussing here is uh, when we talk about policy, and I have already told you that policy has some goals to achieve, and then we have a strategy. And strategy, the component of strategies are processes with certain desirable uh, outcomes. Okay. So whenever we say process, we need to have something over which process will run. So let me give you a very small example that let's say you have a pen drive and you have movie in it and you want to watch it. Somebody said that there is a movie in this pen drive and go and watch it. So in order to watch that movie, you need either a laptop or a personal computer system so that you can run that movie on that and you can get the output of the movie. Or let's take another example. Let's say we have planned that in evening we will be having snacks and tea. This we decided that in breakfast we'll be having tea and snacks. So now we have decided and we have also planned that we'll be making it like on this process. But what do you need to make this? You will need a kitchen. Kitchen is a word which actually encompasses all the system which is needed to, or all the components which is needed to make tea or snacks. So every time when you think of something that these steps need to be taken, then you will have to decide who will take those steps and where it will be taken. So whenever we think about any steps and activity or process of a policy, we need to find a system on which it will run. So you can just see that we have executive structure, executive government, executive part of our government, which has law and order or schools or post office. Many departments or institutions are there. So whenever we think about a new policy or when we want to change a previous policy or want to add on in some of the previous policies, you will not create a separate system every time. You will have to use the current available governance structure of the nation or state. So the point here is that's why you may see that many institutions which are bringing this masters in public policy course, they also have governance as the component of their course. Like the test program, the public policy program of test says public policy and governance, because without studying governance, you will not be able to come up with a policy which is actually can be implemented, because when you think just about the steps and just about the policy goals, and you are not thinking that who will be the implementing agency, and on what system it will be implemented, who will be the responsible persons for the effectiveness of those policy, all those things that you have to think before you think the policy. So in general, the normal management process is that you think about policy first and then create a system for that, because policy should be the ultimate goal of ours, that it should be very effective. And once you have decided about the policy and steps, then you will create the required system for it. But for a nation or for a government, it is not very easy to create a system or every time refine the system as per policy. So in Indian context, a policy maker needs to know the government structure so that he can create only those policies which are actually possible to run on the available government institutions. So in India, or in our system, we will have to play it reverse or both at the same time. That we cannot visualize a policy without visualizing the system on which it will run, or we cannot just create a system without thinking about policy. So we need to think about those. So this is the one of the important thing that everybody should know, that for a policy we need to have implementing agencies or partner agencies. So for an example, I'll say, let's say government of India wants to promote higher education, and I've already discussed this problem somewhere, but sometime before also. Let me rephrase the problem. Let the government of India wants to uh, make a policy to help old age people, help old age people for let's say day-to-day expenditure, those who are not able to get this by their own. So if you want to make this policy, you will also have to think who will be the implementing agency. So a lot of time you have seen that for a central government, Indian Post is one of the best implementing agencies, because Indian Post is spreaded uh, India wide. It has its office in almost every village. So Indian Post act as a very instrumental system for many policies of government of India. Similarly, government can use its KB, because KB is also spreaded India wide. So depending upon the policy, government can identify the institution that which should be, or which institution can act as the system for that policy. Okay. So this particular figure, I'll be sending you this PPT. You can just watch this and can think about all the important terminologies which is there in the public policy cycle. Uh, so let me talk about the strategy and policy, which I have already briefed you in the first slide. That when we in management, when we talk about the strategy, it's just steps or processes. We don't call it policy, because once you make a strategy, then you create a steps. So management has a very distinct process, that they think about the strategy, that like long-term strategy they will think, and then they will start developing their process and activities, because the budget for an organization or particular step or whatever the project that organization is bringing, the budget is very high. But for government, it is not very easy to work in this way, because although this is a very effective way to actually achieve the target, but for a government, it is not very easy. I have already told you the problem with the government, that our governance structure is fixed. We cannot change always. You must have seen in private companies somebody who is working in marketing, now he is an HR. So these certain kind of shipment is very easy. And the corporate organizations are very fluid and dynamic in terms of their structure and their law and regulations. But since our government is being guided by constitution and there are a lot of stakeholder there, so changing the government structure or governance structure is not an easy task. So government bodies, we need to club a strategy and steps together, and a goal, strategy, and steps together. So that's why earlier when we used to have a bureaucratic organizations like Tata Birla, and we don't we used to have a big corporations who were working as a bureaucratic organizations and they have a very fixed rule. At that time in our management colleges we used to have the paper like business policy. So at that time you used to think strategy with goal together. But in current day practice, you will not find any management school teaching business policy. They will have a very different strategic management paper and then operations management paper. So once you've made the policy, then decide the operations, then create the system for it, and then run the process. But in the government system, you will have to think for the government governance before you decide the policy, because the capability of governance or the structure, government structure, is important to assess in order to bringing any policy change, that whether it will be able to implement that or not. Okay. So
Sir, can you give example for both of them to
I'll give
like
you an
we
example from corporate side. See, once I was doing an summer internship in NTPC. Okay. Summer internship, I was doing a summer internship in NTPC, and NTPC was actually going through a big change at that time. They were implementing SAP. SAP is an computer-based, like programming-based system, ERP system, which was going to be implemented organization-wide. Before that SAP, they used to have a different software for their HR, which was called PeopleSoft. Worldwide, this particular software was very successful. Lot of organization has actually gained a lot of advantage through this software because of its fast-paced workflows and very defined and structured workflow. There was no scope of error, and processes uh, was becoming very fast due to this. But in NTPC, it could not got succeeded. Why? Because PeopleSoft was a software. It needed a very good quality of computers. But at that time, when PeopleSoft was implemented, the total IT infrastructure, I'll say the total IT infrastructure, which was the system for, which was the system for this particular process, which was PeopleSoft, and the total IT structure infrastructure was very weak, and it could not actually run the software effectively. So there are a lot of setbacks and there are a lot of problems while using this software on the current system or available system on in NTPC. So it could not work. So this is one of the example that through which you can relate. So let's say somebody said that US government does this in their country to do particular thing. Why can't we do? Sometimes the reason is that Indian government doesn't have that kind of government structure. Are you getting my point? I'll give you another example in terms of government structure. You have seen that in US, everyone who get the citizenship of US, everyone who is born there or get the citizenship, they get SSN number, Social Security number. A lot of policy which US government makes actually uses this SSN number as per their tool. But those kind of policy cannot be implemented in India because we don't have such SSN number kind of system. Although we have tried to brought Aadhaar, but it is still not as effective as SSN. So since we don't have this, we cannot copy all the policy which US government is making. Uh, policy, all copy all the policy which government is uh, has implemented based on this assessment system. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So let's go ahead. So this is the main component of today's class, that we were talking about policy, that this can also be called policy, this can also be called policy. So you will say that health policies are policy, educational policy, but we can actually categorize policy in in context of their purpose or goal. Okay, so we have basically six type of public policies, and we'll be talking about one by one. First one will called distributive policy. Okay, so this is basically uh, we should not be talking about distributive first, but I think I have made a mistake by writing it first. So anyway, uh, we should be writing about substantive policies first, but let's start with distributive only. So distributive policy is like, it was for, matlab, mainly it works as how do we distribute our resources. So the money that government has, the resource that nation has, how we are distributing it for different purpose or different section of society. Okay, so sometimes it can be very seasonal, or sometimes it can be a perpetual need of the society. So you can just see that social insurance is the perpetual need. Food relief is like, sometimes it can be area specific or region specific or season specific. And vaccination camps, it may come as a very disease specific. So all the things that we were doing at the time of corona, and a lot of things, that a lot of policy that we were making was can be categorized in distributive policies. So it's basically segment oriented or purpose oriented. Okay. Regulatory policies are those policies through which we regulate every other thing which government is not doing, or even the government regulating the government systems also. So you must have seen that in last, in year 2022, I think government of India have came up with atomic energy regulatory bill. So a lot of institutions which are working for atomic energy, they are the government institution only, but still government has to bring a regulatory body for that. So regulation is not being done only for private companies or industry or market. It can be there for government institutions also. So or any institution which work uh, with government or for government. So all the compliances, all the regulations that we make, and that we try to assure that these organizations, these institutions should follow. Those are the those policy types will be called regulatory policies. फिर आते हैं redistributive. So redistributive policies are very what do you say? Uh, it's part of distributive policy that we again reinforce that. Okay, or sometimes we add something to the previous policy. And those things will be called a redistributive policy. Like it is extension of distributive policy, you can say it. You know, the initial arrangement that we have made in order to provide resources, or in order to spend money on, we'll be spending on what, and then we'll be change it in between. So and we'll be streamlining it. It will be called redistributive policies.
So can you
Then
give example of redistributive policy?
uh, let's say like you have made a health policy, okay, and something for the national health program, and all of a sudden you found that there is some change and there is some other needs which arises in between that also. So we have to redistribute it because we cannot just allocate uh, all the money that we have. And in fact, the government doesn't have money. Every year, government has to take loan in order to spend all the required or necessary things. All the expenditure are not being met through the income. So we have a certain distribution that we have already done for the health, and something arises in between, like we are making every year new policies, every year budget passes for something else. So we have to redistribute it in a way so that the previous policy or previous policy structure, whatever we have made, it should not be scrapped, or it should also work, and the new policy can also gain some resources or get some resources. ठीक है, तो हेल्थ है, एजुकेशन है, ऐसे कई सारे एरियाज में you will find frequent change is there and they all will lie in redistributive policies. ये है हमारा substantive policy. These anything that we do for general welfare or the current need of society, it will be called substantive policies. So whenever we say welfare policies, there is another word we can just write. There is this is a different kind of categorization which we need to understand, because if you'll know this, talking about many things in interview will be very easy for you. So welfare policy and development policy, although this is not a very textbook wise theory, but this is what we understand in a general understanding is, let's say you must have heard about Manrega. Everyone must have heard about Manrega. Through Manrega, what we make sure that every rural person who lies under BPL will get minimum of 100 days employment from the government side. So this is what we call welfare policy, because that person is in need. That person doesn't have any other way to survive, and we are actually spending our money to make his survival. Although we try to use that person's time in order to build something for government, but not every time you have such need. So but still you spend money for that, because you there is a certain there is a need for that money in for that person, or otherwise a lot of problem or inequality to high, but a lot of other problem will also arise. So welfare policies will be like this. uh, Many other things, like when we provide anything for free, and we लोन जिसको वेवर कर देते हैं गवर्नमेंट एवरी टाइम, गवर्नमेंट waive the loans of farmers, all these things are welfare policy. Here actually we don't get anything in terms of nation development. So and in contrast, development policies are those policies which actually brings the development in the country or the nation or the region. So every welfare policy should be attached with some development policy. This is what I think, and this is what with what you can actually have the debate anywhere, and you will have the very brownie point. So let's say there are 100 people who are getting employment through Manrega this year. And if we are not doing anything to train and skill them, next year they will also come for the same, and even with more number of people. So if this year you have 100 people, maybe next year you will have 110 people for the same Manrega, taking the advantage of Manrega, and will become the beneficiary of Manrega. And you have to incur little more cost on them, because you are not training him or training them to go for higher quality job or skilled job. So basically, what you are doing is you are increasing your burden day by day if we are not attaching Manrega with a development policy, which is a skill training policy or a skill based, whatever the government does for skill development. So every time when a village or when a district, if they are saying that these 1 lakh people are getting advantage or they are beneficiary of Manrega, government should also think that uh, think the way through which they can be pulled out from BPL. Okay. So, but in India like country, we need to have a lot of welfare policies, because if we'll only and the other contrast thing was, if we'll only focus on development policy, will not be able to serve the current need of society, and there will a lot of uh, like what you can say, a lot of social issues or social economic issues will arises. So government have to make the balance between these two. So substantive policies, all the welfare policies and I mean, just law and order enforcement, anti-pollution legislation, all these are substantive policies which has a very substantive goal to achieve, and in a current or recent, like in quick time. Then we have capitalization policies where we give yeah, a lot of, we try to create capital so that it can come up with development agendas. So if government is making some Naratna or Mini Ratna, in recent times government has created IRIS, yeah, for National Rail Finance. These kind of thing that government is doing in order to build more capital, more infrastructure. All these things will be called or can be counted as capitalization, or the policy which actually builds the nation's capital. Okay. So these are the things through which government does the business, or even government support the businesses. A lot of thing is there. We'll be talking about these in detail in later classes. But currently, right now we are just distinguishing in terms of how we can identify that which policy will come under what. So from next time when you'll read a paper and we'll see government is coming with this policy, you can put those policy in one of these six policies, that where it will lie. Okay. And this you should do as a very regular basis. Next time, whenever you see that government is coming up with this, and you can actually visualize that how we can see that policy in what, in these six types where you can put them. So constituent policies are more on government based system, developing democracy पे या फिर something related to constitution or in such things, they will be called constituent based policies. Okay. थोड़ा confusion, I think this is not well written. I'll be changing it. So after studying the types of policy, I'll be leaving something for the next class, that once you uh, identified a problem, once you identified a particular situation that you are being asked to frame a policy, or government is like thinking about to creating a policy for that. So what are the phases that government follows? What are the different steps that government follows in order to um, bring this policy, that policy on the ground. So this is the broader phase. There are a lot of things that is missing here, because if we'll divide the entire policy process, you will be getting 8 steps. But since this is the first class, that then I am coming, then I'm shrinking it in 4 steps only. The first is identification of problem and agenda setting. Okay. This particular word is very important. Just write it somewhere and try to read it in Wikipedia or whatever the dictionary that you have. Try to read about this. This is very important for a public policy process. Okay. And the next, once we have set the agenda, then you will formulate the policy, adaptation and execution strategy. Can anybody tell what is this adaptation? कोई guess करो, wild guess. What is this? After for in formulation process, adaptation, what is there? It is where it will actually work and what it is. So let me tell you.
So,
Um,
uh,
Would
So
you go?
like parliament, in parliament, like we adopt a policy, we adopt a law or something in that, in that sense we adapt it.
Yes. So, matlab, since there is a lot of problem for a nation's government-based public policy is a government has to follow its constitution or the supreme law that is being made much before the government. So anything which government is coming with and it is new or it has not been done before, you need to get it passed through the parliament or whatever the institution that the country has. So adaptation is that process where we legalize the policy. Okay, and once the policy is legalized, some little variations can be done without the adaptation process. But for anything new, government needs to do it. And sometimes it is like the completing the entire process. Uh, like bill representation bill or then sending it to court and telling how the court will actually defend the policy. A lot of thing is there. So you'll be reading about this later, or a lot of thing you'll be reading about that in college only. And then execution strategy. Here we'll be talking about or finding which will be the implementing agencies, how will you get the finance, and who will be the area. Is there any public partnership, public-private partnership in that? A lot of things we'll be discussing or doing it here. Then implementation of policy, where you will have control and contingency. Control, you all know that the deadline or the parameters that we have set that must be followed, and it should not get deviated. And if there is any external change, then you need to also have prepare yourself for adaptation or the change, adapting the change or being making your the project flexible. So this contingency word is used for that. Contingent change or contingent uh, जो variations है that you can bring into the policy and policy execution. And then finally, once it is done, you need to have a evaluation of policy. And this is the point which we'll be talking later. India is very weak in this step. So even a small country like Thailand has a different government department, which is called Program Evolution Department. Whatever the policy that government makes, there will be a department who will assess the implementation project and find out is there any corruption or is there any deviation in the policy and how it is that justified or not. India may we have CAG, which actually only checks about the financial discrepancies, not the policy outcomes. So there is a big need of evaluation of policy in Indian context. So we'll be discussing that in later terms in our case studies also. So this is all about the foundation, the first part of the foundation. In next class, we'll be discussing the policy process, the dynamics of policy process, and we will be reading this particular phases of public policy again in detailed way. Okay, so this will happen in next class. तो अभी मैं recording तो बंद कर रहा हूँ, but we can keep on discussing about anything that you want to ask.